One of my favorite all-time movies also turned 40. Was May 1980 just the year of greatness? There's 3 great things happened in May 1980. So Empire Strikes Back.
What was the third one?
May the Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
turned 40 years old. Remember, zeros and fives. We didn't talk about this on the 35th anniversary.
No, we didn't.
And this podcast probably won't be around in 10 years. That if it is, I don't know, one of us will be on it. But anyway, so Empire Strikes Back came out May 17th, 1980. So we're a little bit behind. Oh, that was in the Kennedy Center. May 21st, 1980 here. Also, Mount St. Helens erupted in 1980. That was bad. Some people died with that. It was gigantic. Probably the biggest volcanic eruption we've had since then. Anyway, so comes out, does extremely well critically, and does well at the box office. And obviously, it's the sequel to Star Wars. I love this movie for a bunch of different reasons. When you look at the history of Star Wars, it's almost like the history of video games. Before and after Empire Strikes Back. Star Wars, when that came out, yes, it was a huge cultural phenomenon. Yes, it was a hit. Yes, it merchandising out the wazoo for a movie like that had never happened before. So the first Star Wars was like Pac-Man in that extent, where you can divide the history of movies before and after Star Wars. You can do that with Pac-Man for video games. Empire Strikes Back, though, made the franchise be taken a little more seriously, and it actually established it as a franchise. Because before that, Star Wars was a standalone movie. It was a standalone movie. And it could have died there if that movie came out and no one saw it. It was done. It was a standalone tale in its way. Did it set up a potential sequel? Yes, but it was a self-contained story on its own. And we look at people talking about, well, Lucas planned out that having night. No. Pie in the sky said it was one movie that was going to be made, and it was financed by for one movie with 20th Century Fox, and that's what it was at the time. And they didn't even think it was going to be that big of a hit at the time. The fucking toys didn't come out in time for Christmas that year. Like there was nothing planned for this until they realized, oh, this is a huge hit. We got to ramp this up. So Empire Strikes Back, though, is the only one of the original 3 movies, I would say, that stands alone as this is a serious dramatic film that you can watch and be like, wow, this is super artistic. Wow, there's no like just cheap cartoony kid stuff in this movie. Wow, this is something that's kind of terrifying in places. Like terrifying if you're a kid watching that movie. To me, there's some moments that I wish I was a kid.
Luke in the woods while training is absolutely terrifying.
Oh, when he sees the Darth Vader image?
Yeah.
I was even talking about that, but that's even a sort of a stark, sort of dramatic, artistic scene. It's like, oh, his face shows up in Vader's helmet after he cuts his heads off. That shows the demon he's struggling with. I'm more talking about Han getting fucking frozen in carbonite.
Sure.
If you're watching that and that's even before the lightsaber battle. Mm-hmm. If you're watching that as a kid, you just saw this a few years ago when you're 4 years old, like a character get brutalized on screen after he got tortured.
The torture part
5 minutes before
was always a bit more scary to me. The carbonite.
That's bad. Come on. That's if you're a kid. I'd say I can't even put a frame of reference on that. If you're an 8-year-old kid watching, people are like, "Oh, Avengers, Infinity War." They were coming back in that movie. I mean, even though you didn't know there was coming, come on.
Yeah.
This is seeing all your heroes get shit on for the last half of that movie. Like it's peril. It's absolute peril. It's not a happy ending. No. It's we've barely escaped with our lives ending, which is why it's brilliant that they went to that and no one saw that coming. It didn't get reviewed well by some at the time because of that.
Sure.
They're like, what the hell is this? Because you hadn't seen that before. Like a cliffhanger ending of a movie in a series like that. It just didn't exist for something like that. Especially when the first movie was so popular, to take that creative risk to go down that road. To be, okay, let's do something. There were some dark moments in the first Star Wars, but it was a light movie in comparison to this.
Sure.
And to go down that route and to see the Rebel Alliance get brutalized at Hoth, barely escape. They're on the run the rest of the movie. They're on the run the whole movie. the Rebel Alliance, and Han and Leia with Chewbacca and C-3PO and R2-D2, who goes with Luke actually. It's just they expanded the world and universe. They had a very good director, in Irving Kershner. Great screenplay. It was rewritten. Lucas didn't like the first draft. It was rewritten. Lawrence Kasdan came on. Leigh Brackett died. I think she did the first draft. She died. Lawrence Kasdan, who still writes today, brilliant, came back and rewrote the final draft. They changed Vader. The most famous thing was they changed Vader into being Luke's father. That was not the plan from the beginning. Don't let anyone tell you any different. Lucas did not have it planned out. Originally, Vader was just some sort of just fucking henchman. That's how he was treated in the first movie. Now he becomes the big baddie, and they sort of gave him humanity. They show him without the helmet. They have the Emperor show up. They gave this universe some sort of life. They expanded upon the original story, which was kind of paper thin. I've been talking about how brilliant the character of Yoda is and the puppetry work by Frank Oz. It's, to me, one of the most brilliant movies I've ever seen. And that's even without it being a Star Wars film, just for what it did as a sequel.
Sure.
It was sort of like one of those, there's very few of those sequels where you say it's better than the original. Like, this is in a sort of a handful of all-time films, a true sequel that was better than the original. Like, people say, yeah, Godfather 2 was better than the original. I prefer the original Godfather, but I can see the case for Godfather 2 being a better movie. I do see that.
When it comes to sequels being as good or better than the original, very few movies come to mind. Aliens comes to mind, and that's largely debatable because it's an entirely different story.
Yes,
it's a different style of movie. It's a different. It's action horror as opposed to suspense. But still, it's a sequel, so I'll let it go. And then Star Wars and Godfather 2.
But then you start running out of steam because you say, oh, well, Winter Soldier is better than the first Captain America, but those are different tales entirely. Those aren't you're using the same character.
Well, I could say that my problem is I can't look at the Marvel movies as individual pieces or separate series. I don't look at Iron Man and then Captain America and then Thor. They're all just...
But they don't continue the story. Right. That's what I mean. Like, it's... Okay, sure. Iron Man 1 and 2 are not really related. Like, sure. It's the same thing with comic books. Like, you read a comic, you throw it out, next month it's a new issue. That's what I mean. Like, the same way that Aliens is a different tale with the same one main character.
Right. All I'm really saying, though, is I consider the Marvel movies to all be part of one series, not necessarily a bunch of individual series. Because as time and time went on, they all that's but what they became.
But to me, they're not true sequels, if that makes sense. The Avengers movies are not true sequels to each other. So anyway, again, if I was in the theater, I had never read reports of it, of what people did in the theater. After Luke gets his fucking ass handed to him by Vader, Vader fools around with Luke at Bespin for he fools around. Luke gets a couple of little shots in on him. Then once Vader says, okay, kid, let's go to school, he brutalizes Luke and cuts his hand off. And just ends it as quickly as he can. And then Luke is just like, all right, I'm fucked. And I would have loved to be in the theater and see that, because no one is expecting that to happen. Everyone's expecting Luke to kill Vader.
Sure.
If you're watching that. Then you see the tables turn. You would expect at that point in time, at front point, you saw Han get put in carbonite. All right, Luke's going to kill Vader and save Han, right? That's probably what you would think if you're watching that movie up to that point. No. Luke gets his hand cut off, gets his ass kicked. He finds out the guy who just cut his hand off is his dad. And he prefers to commit suicide, basically, and drop off to his death versus, So it's like the worst possible, the low for this main character that you're rooting for. And again, it's just like, it's written so well. It's directed brilliantly. The cinematography of the various shots. One of my favorite shots of the film is the sort of desperate escape with Lando and Chewbacca. And by the way, C-3PO gets blown up into pieces as well. We forgot about that. That must have been harrowing for kids to see as well there. And when they're escaping, that shot of the sun going down, the sort of angled wide shot at the docking platform, they're running towards the beautiful shot. It's like one of the most gorgeous shots of any of those three original movies. And they're escaping barely with their lives there. I would have loved it, because now when any movie comes out now, you get the crowd reactions recorded. I would have loved to have seen the theater just fucking gasp when Vader said, "I am your father." It's a cliche now, obviously.
Sure.
But what if it happened back then and you didn't know? What would
It would have been crazy.
have shit your 4-year-old Ian's pants? You would have been like, what the hell? Kids were probably shocked walking out of there. The same way we heard like, oh, people were shocked running out of Infinity War. I'm like, really? You were shocked? Okay. You were shocked by that? Okay. That to me was a shocking turn of events. Again, looking back, you didn't know. You didn't know. I mean, what about Frank Oz? Come on. Yoda?
Good stuff.
Well, that's a living, breathing little puppet. Way better than any CG bullshit. That's why they came back to the puppet. An episode, the new episode 8 and 9, when Yoda, they go back to the puppet because the CG is lifeless and garbage compared to a good puppet guy. It was a living, breathing creature. I mean, it's fantastic. I can rewatch.
All right,
anytime.
we have to move on to Patreon.
We're not even talking about the Hoth. The Hoth battle was fantastic with the walkers and everything. About one last thing, the reason you know this film is the best out of the trilogy, it required the least bullshit tinkering of Lucas for the special editions, and he still tinkered, but there was only like 5 tinkerings being done. Cleaned up the AT-AT walkers, stop motion. That was fine. You cleaned it up. We get it. You didn't change it. But then like having Vader say, "Get my shuttle for my," you don't need that bullshit when he leaves Cloud City. You know he's leaving. And then the one worst thing he did though that they then recorrected when Luke drops off versus joining Vader. They gave him a fucking scream in the special edition. He goes, "Ah!" It's so bad, and it totally counteracts Luke's being calm and realize, all right, I'd rather sacrifice myself than go with Vader. But then they took it back out again.
Oh, good.
So like, okay, Lucas realized he went too far there. All right, that's it. Go rewatch Empire Strikes Back. Return of the Jedi, I got to rewatch. I DVR'd it because I know I don't like Return of the Jedi in general, but it's still a decent movie, but I got to give it its fair shake.